So there are 4 questions in here. First question, in our efforts to lose our ego and leave our self-centeredness behind, do we risk losing also the good aspects of ourself, such as our morals, that have been firmly rooted in our ego self-personality through our upbringing? In the process of this spiritual growing up, we are leaving the self-centered life behind and enter into the divinity life. When you entered this divinity life, or Tathagata, or Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi, or Nirvana, or Tathagata Gabba, whatever you name it, enter into divinity, enter into something that we don't know how to speak of it, we just attach a name to it. When you are in that divinity, it's like perfect, which already include all the good morals that you have. So why worry about leaving all these good aspects of you when you leave the self-centered? The self-centeredness is egoistic. And if you have seeds of compassion, seeds of benevolence and all that, it's even purer than that in the divinity. So don't worry about it. When you get to the pureness of it, it's all-inclusive, it's all-embracing. It's something that is inconceivable. You can't even think of. Maybe what you think are your morals, maybe those aspects of morals are tainted. You don't even realize it. Maybe the morals that have been rooted in you, which you think was already rooted in you, they contain bad roots that you don't even notice. But in that divinity, there's nothing but pure, nothing but oneness, nothing but it's free from all imperfections. So don't worry about it. When you get there, it's absoluteness. It's suchness. It's so many terms created for it. It's Tathagata, it's Buddha Tathagata, it's Taratta, it's Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi. Anuttara is the top. Anuttara is nothing is on top of that. And it's right, it's Bodhi, it's realization, it's complete enlightenment, it's nirvana. In that, it's pure, it's suchness. So don't worry, if you're leaving that, you're leaving all your pollutants behind. You're leaving all your mental afflictions behind. And enter into that spiritual growing up, the spiritual odyssey, the spiritual path that you're walking. So that answers the question. I want to achieve the wisdom of the third eye. Another question now. I want to achieve the wisdom of the third eye like Subhuti did. What does this mean, and how many lifetimes would this take me? Wisdom of the third eye. What our eyes can see, our present eyes, are extremely limited. There was a disciple of the Buddha. I forgot his name, but I will check it out. Disciple of the Buddha. And when he was first ordained, he did not work very hard. He was not diligent. He was quite lazy, and he practiced, but he didn't practice diligently. So he was admonished by the Buddha. The Buddha said, you have to work hard. Otherwise, you'll be slothful in your practice, and you won't achieve, you won't get anywhere. So after listening to the Buddha, he started to change. He worked extremely hard. He worked day by night. He didn't go to sleep. He just worked 20 hours per day and continuously working, meditating, and refining himself and following the practice. He worked so hard that he hurt his eyes. He went blind. He couldn't see anymore because he didn't go to sleep for years. Didn't go to sleep, so he couldn't see. And he was so grief-stricken. I worked very hard. Now I ruined my eyesight. I can't see anymore. I had my eyesight before. Now I didn't have it. So the Buddha comforted him by saying, you can practice the third eye. There is that invisible eye there, which is totally more powerful than your physical eyes. So the third eye, of course, this method, basically is to purify your thought. It's just like following every thought, purifying your thought, watch every thought. And when you get to that nirvana stage, then you obtain the third eye. When the Arahant obtained the third eye, he could see everything. Physically, he's still blind. Physically, he couldn't see. But then when he entered into meditation, he could see not only this world, he could see the outer world. He could see space. That's called the wisdom eye, the third eye. The eye that is so powerful that the physical eye has no comparison to it. So train that third eye. How to train that third eye? That third eye comes from the purest mind. When the Arahant enters into meditation, he could see millions of miles away. The third eye, the wisdom of third eye. Not just the third eye. Some people practice meditation and obtain supernatural ears, supernatural eyes, supernatural. The mano consciousness become supernatural, recalling millions of miles, millions of lifetime in the past, and projecting into seeing the future too. But he could only do that in meditation. Physically, he still couldn't see. But if he wanted to see, he entered into meditation and he could see everything. The mind is powerful. Our mind is extremely powerful if you get to the real mind. So how do you practice the wisdom of the third eye, of the Subhuti? Get into Samatha and Vipassana. Samatha and Vipassana. How do you get into Samatha? Get into Samatha by meditation, by creating an object so that you don't have any desultory thought. When your mind is at peace, the power comes. And practice Vipassana. So in other words, you follow the Buddha's teaching, purify your mind, purify every one of your thoughts, then slowly it will lead you to the third eye. In detail, we still have to talk about it. And you have to practice meditation. You practice meditation, and the third eye will come. You can see everything. The physical eyes are extremely limited. And also our physical eyes only exist in this lifetime. When you pass away in this lifetime, no more eyesight. The physical eyes don't exist anymore. But that spiritual eyes will exist forever, in eternity. That's the power. That physical eyes will lead you to enlightenment, will lead you to see without obstruction. So we still have to talk more about this wisdom of the third eye. So next question. What's the meaning of the very last stanza of the mealtime chant? So the mealtime chant, the last gata is 三德六味供佛是生. It's already been translated. 三德六味, with food of the three merits and the six flavors, we make an offering equally to Buddhas and Sanghas and the sentient beings of the Dharma realm. It's all translated in here. At our mealtime, we wish all sentient beings to practice dhyana as the enjoying a repast and to be filled with bliss in Dharma. That means we finished meal and we enjoy the taste of it. It has a lot of merits, and when we are feeling these merits, we're also thinking of practice. We also are thinking of offering to the Buddha, the Sangha, and we wish that all sentient beings would feel the merits and treat this food as what we want in meditation. And then the Dharma joy would be realized. And this is just a closing prayer, a dedication for the meal. So this is it. And next question. When I read the book you gave to us last week, the first 3 chapters stated that everything in the universe is created by self-nature. Created by self-nature. But in your previous lectures, you said nothing is created, and you gave us the circle example to illustrate this concept. This seems to be a bit contradictory. Could you explain a bit? Also, if self-nature was originally at its purest, how can it give birth to all these realms and to sentient beings? This question contains 2 parts. The first part is, the book says that the universe is created by self-nature. I haven't read that sentence, but I think what he says is, everything is created by causality. By all causes come together, it's created. And nothing has a self-nature. What's the definition of a self-nature? If that thing has self-nature, that means that thing is permanent. That thing can create from its own. Using its own power, it can create itself. So if that thing has self-nature, it does not depend on others, on other causes. It is self-creating. And it is permanent, and it's eternal. It is not out of control. It always can control it. That's the definition of having self-nature. But we see everything in this world, nothing is like that. Nothing is not created out of causality. Nothing is permanent. Nothing can control itself and create itself. It has to be dependent on other causes. So we say nothing has self-nature. So it is created, but it's created through causality. Like this remote control, it's all things put together. The plastic, the wires, the switches, the color, the design, everything this is created. Sure, it exists, it's being created, it's existing, but its existence is unreal. Unreal doesn't mean it does not exist. So the definition of reality, you really have to watch it. It's unreal because why? Because it's created out of causality. All these causes put together to make it come to pass, to make it happen. But when these causes disintegrate, it would not maintain its identity anymore. It does not have its own identity. It's causes put together, conglomeration of causes. So we say this remote control does not have its self-own nature. If it has its own nature, it's going to be created out of its own power. But nothing is like that in this world. If there's anything that does not depend on causes to come out, if anything that has no reason to come out, you tell me. I would like to know what that thing is. It has no reason. It suddenly comes out. And of course, that lead us to argument of the God concept, which I don't want to argue about it. I already argued about many times. And how about God? Well, I already have talked about it many, many times. So, nothing is self-creating. It depends on many causes. So the book, I don't think it's set created by its own. It's created based on causality, simultaneous causality sometimes. So you may have misunderstood that paragraph, or it may be a misprint, I don't know. It shouldn't be created by self-nature, because nothing has self-nature. It's created, sure, but it's created out of causality. It's impermanent. It's outside its own control. It cannot create itself. Next question. Also, if self-nature was originally at its purest, how can it give rise to all these things? How can it give rise to all these dirts? That's a good question. If we say that this purity is already there, how come it get tainted by pollutants? If we look at the sea as an example, all these waves come up, very wavy. And why are there waves coming from in the ocean? Why are there waves? There are waves because the wind blows. The wind blows. If there's no wind, there's no wave. There's the wind blowing the sea. So waves, it becomes very wavy. And we say, where does the wind come from? Why is there waves? Waves because of the wind. Wind comes because of variety, myriad of causes, of reasons that is very difficult to trace. Even if you are the most expert scientist, you cannot trace why, where does wind come from? You ask scientists. Scientists can say, oh, because of this current here, and this humidity here, and they can only give you generalizations as to wind coming to this direction. But they don't know where wind comes from. In our stillness, in our purity, all of a sudden, this wind of mental afflictions, this wind of ignorance blows, and the waves come out. This impurity comes out. But the water is still as water. The water is still as water. Don't mistakenly recognize waves as the water. The humidity is there. The water is the water. It's not wave. The wave already contains the water. So in other words, of course, our nature, our Buddhi nature, is at its purest, is absolutely pure. It's pure, but it's not enlightened yet. It's just like a mirror. A mirror, the coating, a mirror, because of this wind blowing to the direction of the mirror, it contains a lot of dirt and dust and particles on top of the mirror. It covers up the mirror. But the reflectability of that mirror still exists per se. It doesn't lose its reflectability. You haven't lost your pure nature. You haven't lost it. You're just being covered with the dust and dirt and particles. It's just like the mirror being covered with dust and dirt and all this variety of particles does not lose its reflectability. It's still there. As long as you eradicate all this dust and dirt and particles, it shines. It would resume its originality. And what is more important, when our Buddha nature, which exists in all sentient beings, because if you don't have that Buddha nature, you can never become a Buddha. If you does not have that Buddha nature, that means that is nihilism. That means there's no causality, because you can never be better. But that's not the case. Your reflectability, the wisdom mirror, is being covered with dust and dirt. It doesn't lose its reflectability. But once the dust and dirt is removed, it's all reflections, it's all reflectability. It's just like our purest nature is there, but it hasn't been enlightened. You still have to enlighten it. Once it is enlightened, no more wind blowing it, no more waves. It's just like the wind blowing, the wind of ignorance blowing our ocean, our mind ocean, creating all these waves. And the time would come when there is no more wind of ignorance, no more wind blowing. It's one stillness. It's one stillness. In other words, you still have to take actions to get away from ignorance. You still have to take actions to enlighten yourself. Once you're enlightened, you won't go back to being unenlightened. That's the definition of being enlightened. You won't go back. Once you become the Buddha, you won't go back to the 6 paths of reincarnation anymore. We have that nature, that pure nature, that originality, that purity, but you still have to get rid of the dust and dirt. You still have to work at it. Don't just wait. You have that nature, but you don't wait. You have to work at it. You have to have plans. You have to have procedures. You have to have training. You don't just sit there and wait to be enlightened. You have to work at it. That's what we're doing now. By meditation, by purifying your thought, by doing good, by the 6 parameters, by conforming to morality code of standards, by being diligent, by wisdom, by doing all kinds of behaviors that lead us to the right path. We call it the sixth noble path, the eightfold noble path. So it's pure, but we still have to enlighten it. It's just like the oil well in Alberta. The oil is already underground. Does not matter whether you dig it or not. Whether you drill into the earth, you mean if you don't drill into the earth, the oil does not exist in there? It already exists, just waiting for you to drill it. And usually the people say, oh, it does not have any well, and I drilled it and I found it. I found it. It doesn't exist before. That's a misnomer of term. It's already there. You don't create the oil. The oil is there, but you just need to drill it. You push your drill, your equipment, you prepare for everything. You got all your plans, you got all your manpower, you got all your equipment, you got your persistence. And then you keep on drilling. Drilling and drilling. You could have used the wrong drill, but you change another drill and you do it again. The purity is there. It exists. Just require you to do it. Not just talking about it. It's easy just to talk about it and not taking any action. That's why when we follow the Buddhist teaching, we've got to have plans. We've got to have course of actions. We've got to have a mission. We need a mission statement. We want to do this for this year. This year, I want to get my level higher. This spiritual growing up, I want to elevate it. You've got to have plans. You've got to have training. You've got to have procedures. You've got to have mission statements. It's just like doing anything. Without a plan, every Saturday you come for meditation, you eat your lunch and boo, you're gone. You come next week, 1 year, we have 52 weeks, and just time flies. And the last moment comes when you're stretching on the bed. It's time to say goodbye. Good singing, time to say goodbye. Well, it's too late. If you just start to drill at the time when you say goodbye, it's too late. You got to start today. You start now. You start your practice now. You start to purify, to eradicate all the dust and dirt off your tainted mirror. The reflectability already exists there for you. You just need to work at it. So Buddhism can be applied to everything in the world. Even applied to doing a business. You got to have plan, you got to have procedures, you got to have persistencies, you got to follow all the regulations. You got to have wisdom to guide all the way. You got to have the right friends that would give you guidance, books that will help you to think. Well, anyway, that's all for the 4 questions.